All right, this lesson will show you how to find the slope given the graph of a line. And so given this graph of this line, you can find the slope of that line using the slope formula. Now, before we determine what the slope formula is, let's look at these 2 points. I'm going to call this point x1, y1. And so remember, a point has coordinates, the x-coordinate and the y-coordinate. So we'll call this x sub 1. So that's the x-coordinate of that first point, and this will be the y-coordinate of that first point. And then let's say we have this point here, and we'll call this x sub 2, y sub 2. So that's the x-coordinate of the second point and the y-coordinate of the second point. So we can find the slope of this line by using 2 points on that line. So any 2 points in that line. So remember, a line has an infinite number of points. We could use any 2 points. So I'm going to go ahead and use these 2 points here. So the slope formula is this. So basically, remember the slope is defined to be the rise over the run, which sometimes referred to as a change in y divided by change in x. So when you think about change in y divided by change in x, think about the y-axis and the x-axis. So up and down, right, left. Okay? So it is very important you notice that the change in y, so the y will go in the numerator, and the x coordinates will go in the denominator. So here's the formula that you're going to use in many of these problems, and it's this. So remember, change in y, change means to subtract. Change means difference. So we're going to say y sub 2 minus y sub 1. So that's going to be the numerator. So basically, you're going to take this y-coordinate, and you're going to subtract this y-coordinate from it. Now, the order matters in the denominator. So whatever you start out with in the numerator, so if I start out with y2, then I must start out with x2. So I'm going to say x2 minus x1. So notice the subscripts here match up. So y2, x2, y1, x1. All right, now that's the formula that most students remember. But remember, you could have said this. You could have said y1 minus y2 instead. Does not matter. But what matters, though, is what you're going to put in the denominator. So since, remember we said a while ago, the subscripts must match, right? So y2, x2. So this is y1, so I must put x1 in the denominator first. So x1 minus x2, okay? So, but most students remember this, y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So notice the y-coordinates go in the numerator, the x-coordinates go in the denominator. So change in y divided by change in x. Rise, meaning going up and down. So when you go up and down, think about the y-axis. When you go right, left, so the run, right, left, think about the x-axis. All right, so that's the formula. So let's go ahead and look at number 1. So number 1, they want you to find the slope of this line. And so notice that they plotted 2 points on that line. Now remember, a line has an infinite number of points, but they're indicating 2 of them for right now. So if you're going to find the slope of that line using the slope formula, then you need to know the coordinates of that point. So remember, to indicate the coordinates, you always start at the origin, and I'm going to this point here. So you're going to go to the right, 1, 2, 3. See where that point is? So always start at the origin, 1, 2, 3, and you're going to go up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So notice a 5 here, and notice a 3 here. So you want to label that point. So you're going to say 3, 5. So that's the coordinates of this point right here. Then you're going to label the coordinates of that point. So the coordinates of that point, so remember to start at the origin, you go to left 1 and then down 1, right? So negative 1, negative 1. So negative 1, negative 1. So those are the coordinates of that point. And so now all we're going to do is use a slope formula. All right, so we're going to go ahead and use this one. Y2, the slope equals y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. All right, now it does not matter. It does not matter whether you let this be your first point or this be your first point. It does not matter. All right, so some students, what they'll do, and it doesn't matter, what they'll do is they'll label those points to help them because you have to substitute those numbers into this formula. And putting them in the right place does matter. So we're going to go ahead right now and call this x2, and this will be y2. This right here. So x2 will be 3, y2 will be 5. Okay? And then we'll label this, since that was my subscript 2, then this will be subscript 1. x1 and then y1. And then all you do is just substitute those numbers into the formula. All right, so the slope of this line will equal y2, which is 5. See, y2 is 5, right? Corresponds to 5. Minus y1, which is a negative 1. Just like that, see, y subtract a negative 1. That's subtraction. Divided by, and then x2, which is 3. Make sure you're using the right number. x2 is 3. The order matters in the denominator. Subtract x1, which is negative 1. All right, now we got to simplify this. So you have to remember 5 subtract a negative 1. You can always write subtraction as an addition problem. So that becomes 5 plus the opposite. So you change subtraction to addition by taking the opposite of that number following the subtraction symbol. So 5 subtract a negative 1 means 5 plus the opposite of a negative 1, which is positive 1. And the same thing here. 3 subtract a negative 1 means 3 plus the opposite of a negative 1, which is a positive 1. And so you get 5 plus 1 is 6, and then 3 plus 1 is 4. And then let's just go ahead and reduce this. So the slope reduced is going to be 3/2. So always make sure you reduce. So it's important to reduce. So that's the slope. All right. Now notice as you go from left to right, your line is increasing. So whenever your line increases, the slope is positive. So notice the slope is positive, so the line increases. The line increases, slope is positive. Okay? All right, now I just want to show you this though. Someone else could have, instead of labeling this, the second point in this, the first point, let me go ahead and show you. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite the points, 3, 5, and then negative 1, negative 1. So someone else could have said, well, I'm going to call this the first point instead. So instead of saying x2, y2, we'll say x1, y1. And then we'll make this x2, y2. The point is, it does not matter. So watch, the slope equals, remember, y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So y2 this time's a negative 1, right? So I get negative 1 minus, and then y1 is this positive 5. Divided by x2, which is negative 1, subtract x1, which is 3. So y2 minus y1, and then x2 minus x1. All right, negative 1 subtract 5 means negative 1 plus 5, right? And then negative 1 subtract 3 means negative 1 plus negative 5, excuse me. And then negative 1 subtract 3 means negative 1 plus a negative 3. So remember, change subtraction to addition, you add the opposite. So negative 1 plus the opposite of 5 is negative 5. Negative 1 subtract 3 is negative 1 plus the opposite of 3, which is negative 3. A negative 1 plus a negative 5 is a negative 6. A negative 1 plus a negative 3 is a negative 4. A positive divided by positive, a negative divided by negative is a positive. And then reduced, you get 3/2. So notice you get the same answer, right? All right, so it does not matter. All right, so slope is positive. Notice it's supposed to be positive because the line is increasing. Now, another way you can think of the slope is using that rise over run. So slope is rise over run. And so, watch, I'm going to show you something. So it does not matter which of these 2 points you use. In fact, it does not matter which point on the line you use. But since they indicated 2 points for you, we're going to use this. All right, so let me go ahead and use a different color, I guess. So I'm going to use a highlighter. Hopefully it'll show up. All right, so from this point, you're trying to get to this point. So notice I'm going to draw a triangle that looks like this. So notice I'm drawing this triangle, just like this. See this? Just like that. See right here? All right, so I went from here to this point. Now I'm going to, whenever you start here, I'm starting here. Whenever you go to the right, it's positive. Whenever you go up, it's positive. If you go to the left, it's negative. When you go down, it's negative, okay? So I went to the right and count the units. From here, I went 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So I went 4 units. And then up here, I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I went 6 units. And so there's your rise, there's your run. See this right here? 6 fourths. Rise, run. Okay? All right. Now, if you wanted to go this way, watch. If you want to go this way instead, if you wanted to draw the triangle, let me use a different color. So if you wanted to draw the triangle this way, like this, you could have done the same thing. Oops, you can't see it very well. Let's do it again. Let's do this. All right, so if you want to draw the triangle this way, again, let's start here. It does not matter whether you start here or here. It does not matter. All right, so if you start here, notice I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then to the right, I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So notice rise, run, 6 fourths. See that? 6 fourths. Okay. All right. So notice that approach. So you went to the right. I'm drawing a little arrow here. You went to the right 4, and then you went up 6. Over here, I went up 6, and then to the right 4. So up positive, right positive. Okay. Now, let me just show you something else as well with this. I'm going to go ahead and plot those 2 points again. And so the 2 points were what? 3, 5, 3, 5, and then -1, -1. And so when I draw that line, I'm going to just draw it again, just to show you something else. And so when I draw that line, I want you to see this. So remember we started here at this point. You could have started here at this point if you wanted to. So let's start here. So I'm going to go, watch, I'm going to go down like this. So I'm going down, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And since I'm going down, we're going to say that's a -6. And then we go to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4. Since I'm going to the left, that's a -4. All right, so notice I went from this point, I went down. So you're going down, that's negative. So down, think negative. And then to the left, from here, went to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4. So left, negative. Okay, and so remember the slope is rise over run. So the rise is the part that's going up and down. So my rise is -6. My run is the part that's going left and right. So my run is -4. So remember this number right here, if I can find it real quick. This right here, see it? That's this right here. Using the formula, that's what this is. So negative divided by negative is a positive, and then reduce, you get 3/2. All right? So notice several ways you can do this. You have to know all parts though. So the formula, and you can think of this as rise over run by using those little arrows like this. The colored part, that's using the rise over run. And then let's see if I can get back to this. Same thing here. So remember, when you go down, negative, left, negative. Whenever you go to the right, positive, up, positive. Okay? Up, positive, right, positive. All right. So that was that example. Let's look at another real quick. All right. So in number 2, we have this. So let's go ahead and label the points. So you must label the points first. You're going to find the slope. And so this point here is on the y-axis. So we start the origin, and since I'm not going left or right, my x-coordinate is going to be 0. And then we're going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Notice the 6 right here. So those are the coordinates of that point. Over here, the coordinates of that point, so to get to that point from the origin, we go to the right 5 and then down 2. So that's +5, -2. All right, now let's go use the slope formula. So remember, slope is y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. We're going to go ahead and use that one. And let's go ahead and label these. So we'll say x2, y2, and then let's call this the first point, x1, y1. It does not matter. You can say x1, y1, x2, y2. It does not matter. So the slope, then we can just substitute. So y2 is 6, subtract y1, which is -2, divided by x2, which is 0, subtract x1, which is 5, right? And so 6 subtract a negative 2 means 6 plus the opposite of negative 2, which is positive 2. 0 subtract negative 5 means 0 plus a negative 5. So I get 6 plus 2 is 8, and then 0 plus negative 5 is a negative 5. So I'm going to write this as negative 8 fifths. All right, so there's the slope. So the slope is negative 8 fifths. Rise over run. So the rise is negative 8, the run is 5. So that's the slope, negative 8 fifths. So notice that since the slope is negative, the line falls. So the line falls as you go from left to right. Notice the line is falling. So the line falls. Slope is negative. Okay. Now, if you wanted to use, remember we said does not matter whether this is your second point or this is your first point. So if you wanted to use instead, let's say, I'm going to go ahead and just show you. So instead of making this your first point right here, let's make this the second. So this will be x2, y2, and this will be x1, y1. Just want you to see, you'll get the same answer. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, that's the slope. So y2 is a negative 2, subtract y1, which is 6, divided by, and now remember, since you started with y2, you have to start with x2 first. x2, which is 5, subtract x1, which is 0. Negative 2, this becomes negative 2 plus a negative 6, divided by 5 minus 0. Well, negative 2 and a negative 6 is a negative 8, and then 5 minus 0 is 5. And notice that slope is the same as this one. So it does not matter whether this is your first point or this is your second point. Same thing here. All right, as long as you use the formula correctly. All right, now I want to show you again this rise over run using the points. So let's do that using the highlighter again. So let's think about this as rise over run. Rise over run. All right, does not matter which point I use. I'm going to go ahead and use this one just to show you. So remember, the slope is negative, right? Okay, so let's use this point first. So I'm using this point. So I'm going to go from here to this point. So I'm going to go, just draw a triangle like this. Draw a triangle. See how I'm doing it? Until a right triangle, until they meet like that. And then let's start here. And then notice to go here. So you trace over that highlighted part. So I'm going down, and then all of a sudden I'm going to the right, correct? I'm going down and then to the right. So when you go down, remember when you go down it's negative, when you go to the right it's positive. So I'm going down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's a negative 8. And then we're going to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's a positive 5. So remember, slope is rise over run. Rise is the part that's going up and down. Run is a part that's going left, right. So my rise is negative 8, and my run is positive 5. And notice you get the same slope as you did with the formula. Okay? All right, so different ways of doing this. Okay, let's look at another one. All right, so again, we have this one. All right, at this point, you'll notice that the line falls, right? So since the line falls, the slope should be what number? What kind of number? Slope is negative, right? So hopefully we'll get a negative slope. That's what it's supposed to be. All right, let's first of all label the points. So we got to label this point here. So we start the origin, and we're going to get to that point. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That corresponds to this negative 7 here. And then going up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that 5 corresponds to this 5. So that's the coordinates of that point. Over here, the coordinates of that point, so the origin, 1, 2. So that's negative 2. And then we're going down, 1, 2, 3, 4. So negative 4. All right. And let's go ahead and label the points. Let's call this x2, y1. x2, y2. And this will be x1, y1. All right, so the slope, remember, is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So y2 is 5. So I get 5 subtract y1, which is negative 4, divided by x2, which is negative 7, subtract x1, which is negative 2. So 5 subtract negative 4, we change the subtraction to addition, so we add the opposite. So 5 plus a positive 4. So it becomes 5 plus 4. Over here, negative 7 subtract negative 2 means negative 7 plus the opposite. So negative 7 plus a positive 2. 5 plus 4 is 9. Negative 7 plus 2 is a negative 5. So we get negative 9/5. All right, so that's a slope. Remember, I said it was supposed to be negative. All right, and remember, it does not matter. Let me go ahead and rewrite those points. Negative 7, 5. Negative 2, negative 4. It does not matter whether, remember, whether this is your second point or this is your first point. It does not matter. So, for example, if I let this be the second point this time, x2, y2, x1, y1, you get the same answer. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So y2 is a negative 4, subtract y1, which is 5, divided by x2, which corresponds to negative 2, subtract x1, which corresponds to negative 7. So negative 4 subtract 5 means negative 4 plus the opposite of 5, which is negative 5. Negative 2 subtract negative 7 means negative 2 plus the opposite of negative 7, which is a positive 7. Negative 4 plus a negative 5 is a negative 9. Negative 2 plus 7 is 5. So notice you get the same answer. And if you wanted to use that rise over run, I'm not going to do that here. Remember, slope is also rise over run. You can think of that as rise over run. So notice, let's go ahead and start with this point here, right here. So I'm going to draw my triangle until I get to the other point, just like that. And notice to go from here to here, so start, end, I'm going down and left, right? So down negative, down and right, excuse me. Down and then right. So down negative, right positive. So I went down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's a negative 9. So remember, down, make sure you say negative. And then to the right, from here, you count the units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. So notice slope is rise, the part that's going up and down. So that's negative 9, divided by the run, the part that's going right, left. So that's 5. All right, so notice you get the same answer. All right, now if you wanted to, I'm going to do that here just to show you. So remember how we started with this point? You could have started with this point if you wanted to. Let me just kind of redraw this so it doesn't get too messy. So let me just draw the line again. So remember we had negative 7, 5, which is here. And then we had negative 2, negative 4, which is here. So it's negative 2, negative 4. And so if I draw the line, if I draw this line, I get this. So I just want to show you that if you find the slope using the idea of rise over run, it really does not matter which point you use, and it really does not matter whether you use this side of the line or this side of the line. So I'm going to just show you real quick what I mean. So remember when we did this one, we started here and went down first, right? And then to the right. If you want to start here, let's say, if you want to start here, you can use this side if you want to. So you can start drawing the triangle this way. Does not matter. Okay, does not matter. Just oops, I went too far up. I should have done this one, sorry. All right, so you go up and then left. So notice I'm going this direction, up and then left, right? So when you go up, it's positive, and you go left, it's negative. So let's count the units. So when I count the units, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But I went up, so that's now positive 9. And then when you go to the left, from here you went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But since you went to the left, that's a negative 5. And so remember, slope is rise over run. So my rise is the part that's going up and down, so that's that positive 9 right here. And my run is the part that's going left, right, so that's at negative 5. So there's your slope, but we prefer to write it like this, negative 9/5. All right, so it does not matter. So notice I use the formulas in two different ways, see that? And I use the idea of rise over run in several ways. All right, let's do one more. So let's look at this problem. So notice that this line is rising. So what kind of slope should that be? Well, since the line rises, the slope should be positive, right? All right, so the first thing you want to do, though, is label those points. So this point here, going from the origin, that's going to be 2, 3, right? So that's 2, 3. So make sure the x-coordinate is correct and the y-coordinate is correct. Over here, the coordinates of that point, you're going to go from the origin, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then up 1. So left 5, negative 5, up 1, positive 1. All right, and so let's go ahead and find the slope. So the slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So let's go ahead and call this the second point right here. So let's say x2, y2, and this will be x1, y1. All right, so it always helps to label these. It really does. So it's a good idea to label those points before you substitute into the formula. So y2 is 3. Subtract y1, which is 1, right? Divided by x2. Remember, since you started with y2, you must start with x2, so make sure you put the correct x2 down here. x2 is corresponding to the number 2, minus, and then x1, which is negative 5. All right, 3 subtract 1, that's easy, that's 2. 2 subtract negative 5 means 2 plus the opposite of negative 5, so that's 2 plus 5. So you get 2, and 2 plus 5 is 7. So there's your slope, 2 sevenths, and it's positive. All right, and if you wanted to use the idea of rise over run, let me just show you. Okay, it does not matter whether you use this point or this point to start. All right, let's go ahead and start with this one just to show you. So I'm going to start here. Put a little circle there. That's where I start. And it does not matter whether you draw the triangle on this side of the line or on this side. It does not matter. All right, I'm going to draw the triangle on this side. So I'm going to go draw a right triangle until you get to the other points like this, just like this. Okay, so you see that right triangle from here to this point. Now notice the direction. So I went down and then to the left, right? Okay, so notice when you go down it's negative, when you go to the left it's negative. So I went down 1, 2 units, so that's negative 2, right? Negative 2, and then you went to the left. From here, you went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you went to the left, 7, so that's negative 7. So the slope then, rise, that's the part going up and down, that's negative 2. And then the run, part going left, right, that's negative 7. But we know that a negative divided by negative is a positive, so we get positive 2 sevenths, which is the same as this one. All right, so that should help you to be able to find the slope of a line where the graph is given.